Ambassador King Hannah stood before the Grand Assembly and felt the weight of 8 billion souls pressing down on her shoulders. The chamber was massive, built to hold representatives from over 1,000 species, and she was just one small human woman standing at the center of it all. The lights were too bright. The air smelled wrong, and every alien eye in the room looked at her with either pity or contempt. She'd been doing this job for 23 years. 23 years of smiling when they insulted her. 23 years of bowing when they demanded it. 23 years of pretending that humanity was grateful for the scraps the Galactic Covenant threw their way. Today would be different. The High Speaker of the Villani Dominion rose from his elevated throne. His name was Torvin, and he was tall and thin with pale blue skin and eyes that held no warmth. The Villani had ruled this part of the galaxy for 10,000 years. They had conquered hundreds of species. They had never lost a war. "The matter before us is simple," Torvin said. His voice echoed through the chamber, translated instantly into 1,000 languages. The territories known as New Sol, Busan Prime, and Daegu Station were incorrectly assigned to the human species 60 years ago. This was an administrative error. The Villani Dominion now claims these worlds as our rightful property. Hannah kept her face calm. Those 3 worlds held 40 million human beings, families, children, people, who had built homes and planted gardens and buried their dead in foreign soil. The humans will be given 90 days to relocate, Torvin continued. This is generous. We could simply take what is ours. Murmurs rippled through the assembly. Some species nodded in agreement. Others looked away, unwilling to meet Hannah's eyes. None of them spoke in humanity's defense. None of them ever did. Hannah stepped forward to the speaking platform. Her translator device hummed softly against her throat. "Honored representatives," she began, "the United Earth government rejects the Villani claim. These worlds were legally assigned to humanity under covenant law. Our people have lived there for 3 generations. We will not abandon them." Torvin laughed. It was not a kind sound. "You reject our claim?" He looked around the chamber, inviting others to share his amusement. "With what authority? With what power? Humanity has 200 warships. The Villani Dominion has 15,000. You are children playing at civilization." Hannah felt heat rise in her chest, but she kept her voice steady. "We propose an alternative. A new treaty of cooperation. Trade agreements that benefit both our peoples. Cultural exchange. Mutual respect. We can be partners instead of enemies." She held up a data tablet containing the proposal she had spent 3 years preparing. Every detail was perfect. Every term was fair. It represented humanity's genuine desire for peace. Torvin did not even look at it. "Mutual respect," he repeated, tasting the words like something rotten. "You are barely more intelligent than the animals we use for labor. Your species has existed for the blink of an eye. You have no art, no history, no culture worth preserving. And you dare speak to me of respect?" The chamber fell silent. Even species who disliked the Villani looked uncomfortable at such open cruelty. Hannah lowered the tablet. Her hands were shaking, but not from fear. "I see," she said quietly. "Then let us put it to a vote. The Covenant will decide whether humanity's colonies belong to their people or to the Villani." Torvin smiled. "An excellent suggestion." Vote took less than 5 minutes. 847 species voted in favor of the Villani claim. 1 species voted against. Humanity's vote did not count because they were classified as a minor species without full membership rights. Hannah watched the numbers appear on the display screen above her. She had expected this. She had prepared for this. But knowing it would happen did not make it hurt any less. "The matter is settled," Torvin announced. "Humanity will evacuate the 3 worlds within 90 days. Failure to comply will result in military action." Hannah reached up and removed her translator device. She held it in her palm for a moment, looking at the small piece of technology that had allowed her to speak to the galaxy. For more than 2 decades, then she dropped it on the floor. She spoke in Korean. Knowing that most of the chamber would not understand her, "Then we have nothing more to discuss." She turned and walked toward the exit. Her footsteps echoed in the sudden silence. Ambassador Kong Torvin called after her. "Where do you think you are going?" "We have not dismissed you." Anna did not turn around. She did not slow down. She walked through the massive doors and let them close behind her. Outside the chamber, her aide was waiting. A young man named Zhang Xiujin, fresh from the diplomatic academy, still believing that words could change the galaxy. Ambassador. What happened? What did they decide? Hannah kept walking. "Send a message to Admiral Park Taiho. Tell him the peace talks have ended. Ended. But surely we can appeal." "There will be no appeal." Hannah stopped and looked at the young man. Her eyes were hard now. All the softness she had shown in the chamber stripped away. For 60 years we have begged for scraps from their table. We have smiled at their insults. We have pretended to be weak, so they would not see us as a threat. She started walking again. Faster now, that time is over. Far across the galaxy, Admiral Park Taiho sat in his command chair aboard the battleship Ducto. He was 64 years old, with gray hair and calm. Eyes that had seen too much death to be surprised by anything anymore. His communications. Officer turned to him with a pale face. "Admiral, priority message from Ambassador Kong." Taiho accepted the transmission. He read the 3 words on his screen. Then he read them again. Peace talks ended. He closed his eyes for a moment. When he opened them, every trace of the tired old man was gone. In his place sat a warrior who had been waiting for this moment for 30 years. "All ships," he said, his voice carrying across the bridge. "Condition absolute. Phoenix Protocol is now active." As officers scrambled to their stations, alarms began to sound across the fleet. In every human colony, in every hidden outpost, in every secret shipyard that the galaxy did not know existed, lights flickered on and machines hummed to life. The message spread at faster than light speeds. Condition absolute. Phoenix Protocol. Every human in the galaxy knew what those words meant. War was coming, and this time, humanity would not beg for peace. Admiral Taiho stood and walked to the observation window. Stars stretched out before him, cold and beautiful and indifferent. "They think we are weak," he said to no one in particular. "They think we are afraid. They have made a terrible mistake." He turned to his crew. "Send word to General Yoon Minho. Tell him to wake the wolves." The declaration of war was broadcast across every channel to every corner of the galaxy. Earth's president spoke calmly and clearly, her words translated into 1,000 languages. Humanity was at war with the Volani, Dominion, and any species that chose to stand with them. The galaxy laughed. On 100 different worlds, in 1,000 different languages, the joke spread like wildfire. The humans had lost their minds. 200 ships against 15,000? It would not even be a battle. It would be an execution. High Speaker Torvin received the news while eating his morning meal. He set down his utensils and smiled at his advisors. "How amusing," he said. "The animals have decided to bare their teeth. Have our fleet commanders been informed?" "Yes, High Speaker. They await your orders." Torvin waved a thin hand dismissively. "There is no rush. Let them wait. Let the humans spend a few days understanding the size of their mistake. Then we will crush them so completely that no species will ever challenge us again." His chief military advisor, a nervous creature named Veth, cleared his throat. "High Speaker, our intelligence division has noted some unusual activity. Unusual. The humans are recalling all civilian ships to their core systems. Their colonies have gone dark. No communications in or out. And their military transmissions have shifted to an encryption we cannot break." Torvin frowned slightly. "They are afraid. They are hiding. This is to be expected. Perhaps, but there are also reports that human agents across the galaxy have disappeared. Thousands of them. Workers, merchants, refugees who have lived among other species for decades. Gone overnight, cowards fleeing before the storm, hesitated, or soldiers returning to their posts." Torvin stared at his advisor for a long moment. Then he laughed, a cold sound that held no humor. "You worry too much, Veth. The humans are mammals from a small planet orbiting an average star. They have no experience in true warfare. They have spent 60 years groveling at our feet. Do you truly believe they have somehow become a threat? Veth bowed his head. No, High Speaker. Forgive my concerns. Forgiven. Now leave me. I wish to finish my meal in peace. But Veth's words stayed with Torvon longer than he wanted to admit, deep beneath the surface of Earth's moon. In a facility that did not appear on any official record, Dr. Osunwu stood before a wall of screens showing data that would have seemed impossible to any other species in the galaxy. He was 72 years old, small and thin, with glasses that he refused to replace with optical implants because he liked the way they felt on his face. He had spent 40 years working on Project Hammer, knowing that he might never live to see it used. Today, he would see it used. All systems are ready, his assistant reported. Power cores are stable. Targeting matrices are calibrated. We can begin deployment whenever you give the order. Sunwoo nodded slowly. He thought about his grandchildren, about the colony world where they lived. One of the 3 worlds the Villani wanted to take. He said quietly, I always hoped this day would never come. I built these weapons, praying they would never be needed. But you built them anyway. Yes. Because hope is not a strategy. And humans have always understood that peace is only possible when you have the strength to wage war. He turned to face his team. Brilliant men and women who had given their lives to a secret that the galaxy could never know. For 40 years, we have hidden our true capabilities. We let them think we were weak. We let them laugh at us. We let them believe they had nothing to fear from humanity. He pressed a button on his console, and the screens changed to show weapon systems unlike anything the galaxy had ever seen. Today, they learn the truth. Today, Project Hammer wakes up, 300 light-years away. Captain Beeknari sat in the command chair of the stealth destroyer Gwanggetto. She was 34 years old, with sharp eyes and a sharper mind. She had joined the Navy at 18, convinced that humanity needed warriors who could think as well as fight. The Gwanggetto was invisible. Not just hard to detect, but truly invisible, using technology that the Villani believed was theoretically impossible. She had been hiding behind their largest orbital station for 6 hours, close enough to count the lights in its windows. Captain, her sensor officer whispered, we have confirmed 17,000 civilians aboard the station. 80% are Villani military families. Nari nodded. Open a channel. Tight beam, directly to the station commander. Channel open. Attention Villani Orbital, Station 7. This is Captain Beeknari of the United Earth Navy vessel Gwanggetto. You have 6 minutes to begin evacuation procedures. We will not offer this mercy again. For 10 seconds, there was only silence. Then a confused voice responded. What? Who is this? There are no human vessels in this sector. Our sensors show nothing. Your sensors are wrong. You now have 5 minutes and 45 seconds. I suggest you move quickly. She cut the channel. Her executive officer, a tall man named Kwon Jun-ho, looked at her with something like admiration. They won't believe us. They'll think it's a trick. Some will. Some won't. That's not our problem. Nari checked her tactical display. Load the gravitic lances. Target their weapons systems only. Civilian sections are off limits. Weapons targeted and ready. Nari watched the clock count down. 4 minutes. 3, 2. On the station, chaos had erupted. Some officers were laughing at the absurd warning. Others were rushing to escape pods, unwilling to take the chance. The station commander was screaming at his sensor team to find the invisible ship. They never found it at exactly 6 minutes. The Gwanggetto fired the gravitic lances were something new, something terrible. They did not burn or explode. They crushed. The station's weapons platforms crumpled like paper, collapsing inward as artificial gravity fields tore them apart. The attack lasted 11 seconds. When it was over, every weapon on the station was destroyed. The civilian sections were untouched. Nari opened a new channel, broadcasting on all frequencies so that every ship in the system could hear. This is Captain Beeknari of the United Earth Navy. Your station has been disarmed. Your civilians are unharmed. We could have killed everyone aboard. We chose not to. She paused, letting her words sink in. Remember this moment. Remember that we showed mercy when we did not have to. Because mercy is not weakness. Mercy is a choice. And the next time, we may choose differently. The Guangetto slipped back into the darkness of space, invisible once more. Across the galaxy, reports began flooding in. Human ships appearing from nowhere, striking without warning, vanishing without a trace. Weapons that defied known physics. Tactics that broke every rule of galactic warfare. High Speaker Torvin read the reports with growing disbelief. Impossible, he whispered. This is impossible. But the burning wreckage of his fleet told a different story. The humans were not weak. The humans were not afraid. The humans had been waiting. And now, the galaxy would learn what that meant. The Battle of Threshold Gate would be remembered for 1,000 years. It was the moment the galaxy realized that everything they believed about humanity was a lie. Threshold Gate was a massive structure, ancient jump point that connected 12 different star systems. Whoever controlled it controlled the movement of fleets across an entire sector. The Villani had held it for 3,000 years, Commander. Shin Yonji brought 40 human ships to take it. The Villani had 600 vessels defending the gate. Their admiral, a veteran named Kethros, looked at the approaching human fleet and felt nothing but contempt. 40 ships, he said to his officers. They send 40 ships against 600. This is not a battle. This is suicide. Perhaps they hope to negotiate a surrender. One officer suggested. Kethros laughed. Then they have come to the wrong place. All ships, attack formation. We will destroy them so quickly that the rest of their species will lose the will to fight. The Villani fleet moved forward in perfect formation, a wall of warships bristling with weapons. They had fought 100 battles this way. They had never lost. But the human ships did not behave the way they expected. Instead of forming a defensive line, the human vessels scattered. They moved in patterns that seemed random, chaotic, impossible to predict. Villani targeting systems struggled to lock on. What are they doing? Kethros demanded. This makes no tactical sense. They are. Dancing Admiral. They move like nothing I have ever seen. Then the humans fired. The weapons they used were not lasers or missiles or anything the Villani recognized. Thin beams of distorted light reached out and touched the lead Villani ships. For a moment, nothing seemed to happen. Then those ships crumpled inward, crushed by their own gravity. Gravitic weapons, Kethros whispered, his confidence cracking. They have gravitic weapons. No one was supposed to have gravitic weapons. The theory was known, but the energy requirements were impossible. Every species had tried and failed. Except, it seemed, the humans. Lieutenant Choi Do-yan flew a fighter through the chaos of battle. His small craft weaving between burning wreckage and enemy fire. He was 26 years old. He had trained for this moment his entire life. His squadron had been given a specific target, the Villani flagship. If they could disable its command systems, the enemy fleet would fall into confusion. All wolves, this is Wolf Leader, he said into his comm. Stay tight. We punched through their screen in 30 seconds. Wolf Leader, they have us outnumbered 50-1, and it's almost a fair fight. On my mark, Do-yan pushed his engines to maximum and dove directly toward the wall of enemy fighters. His squadron followed without hesitation. They were wolves, and wolves did not run from a hunt. The battle that followed was brutal and beautiful. Human pilots moved with a recklessness that bordered on madness, taking risks that no sane species would consider. They knew they might die. They flew anyway. Do-yan's fighter took a direct hit. Warning lights screamed. His engines failed. He should have ejected. Any sensible pilot would have ejected. Instead, he aimed his dying craft at the Villani flagship's bridge and fired his remaining thrusters. The impact was massive. His fighter tore through armored plating and buried itself in the command center. The explosion killed every senior officer aboard. When rescue teams arrived 3 hours later, they found Do-yan still alive, trapped in the wreckage but breathing. His first words were, "Did we win?" They had won. Admiral Kethros survived the battle. He was one of only 37 Villani officers to escape Threshold Gate alive. His fleet of 600 ships had been reduced to ruins in less than 4 hours. He sent a report to High Speaker Torvin. His hands shook as he wrote it. They do not fight like anyone we have ever faced. Their weapons are beyond our understanding. Their tactics break every rule of warfare. They take risks that should be fatal and somehow survive. And when they cannot survive, they find ways to hurt us even in death. He paused, searching for words to describe what he had witnessed. They fight like they have nothing to lose and everything to prove. They fight like cornered animals with the intelligence of gods. I do not know if we can beat them. I do not know if anyone can. Torvin read the report and threw it across the room. Lies, he hissed. Excuses from a failed commander? But more reports arrived. From every front, the same story repeated. Human ships appearing from nowhere. Human weapons, destroying everything they touched. Human soldiers fighting with a ferocity that bordered on insanity. And worse, the sleeper agents. For 60 years, humans had lived among other species. They had worked as merchants, laborers, teachers, servants. They had married into alien families. They had raised children. They had become part of the fabric of galactic society. And all along, they had been waiting. Now those agents activated. Military shipyards caught fire. Communication relays went silent. Supply convoys vanished. Key officials were assassinated in their beds. The Villani Empire was bleeding from 1,000 cuts, and they could not stop the bleeding. Commander Shinyonji stood on the bridge of her flagship and watched the last Villani ship at Threshold Gate break apart. She was 38 years old, thin and tired, and harder than anyone should have to be. She had lost 12 ships, nearly 2,000 sailors. She knew each of their names. Ma'am, her communications officer said. Admiral Park is requesting a status update. Yunji straightened her uniform. She thought of the dead. She thought of the living. She thought of the colonies full of children who would never have to kneel before alien masters. Tell the Admiral that Threshold Gate is ours. We are ready for Phase 2. She turned to her crew. These men and women who had followed her into hell without hesitation. Get some rest. Write letters to your families. Because tomorrow, we keep going. Where, Commander? Someone asked. Ing allowed herself a small smile. The first smile she had worn in weeks. Wherever they are. We find them, and we finish this. For every time they laughed at us. For every time they called us animals. For every human who was told they would never be good enough. She looked out at the stars. We are not done. Not even close. Far away, on a world that had never seen human soldiers, an alien child asked her mother about the creatures on the news. The ones who were burning the Villani Empire. Mother, what are humans? Her mother hesitated. She had heard stories, but she had never believed them. They are from a death world, she finally said. A planet where everything tries to kill you. They evolved by surviving things that would destroy any other species. Are they monsters? Her mother thought about that question for a long time.
Oh.
She said, they are not monsters. They are survivors, and they have spent 60 years pretending to be tame. The child did not understand, but soon. She would. Everyone would. 3 months into the war, the Villani Dominion had lost 40% of its fleet. Shipyards that had operated for millennia were burning rubble. Supply lines that had fed an empire were cut and scattered. And the humans showed no signs of stopping. The galaxy watched in disbelief. Counselor Miravex of the Kethari Alliance sat in her private chambers and studied the reports from the front lines. The Cathari were neutral in this war, but neutrality was becoming harder to maintain. The Villani were demanding support. The humans were demanding the Cathari stay out of their way, and privately. Secretly, Miravex was terrified. She had met humans before. Quiet, polite creatures who smiled too much and spoke too softly. She had believed, like everyone else, that they were harmless. Primitive. Barely worth noticing. Now, she watched recordings of human ships, tearing through Villani battle groups like wolves through sheep. She watched human soldiers fighting with a fury that seemed almost supernatural. She watched an empire that had ruled for 10,000 years crumbling in weeks. She sent a secret message to Ambassador Kong Hana, requesting a private meeting. The response came within hours. "I will speak with you," Hana wrote. "But not as a supplicant. We are equals now. Remember that." They met on a neutral station, in a small room with no windows and no witnesses. Myra Vex was tall and elegant, her silver skin gleaming under soft lights. Kong Hana looked smaller, older, more tired than Mira remembered, but her eyes were different now. There was no more pretending in them. "Thank you for meeting me," Mira said carefully. "I wanted to understand." "Understand what? How? How is this possible? Your species was supposed to be weak, primitive. You had no military tradition, no advanced technology, no experience in galactic warfare. And yet we are winning." Hannah's voice was flat. "That bothers you. It frightens me. Because if you could hide this much for this long, then nothing I believed was true. What else have you been hiding?" Hannah was quiet for a moment. Then she gestured for Mira to sit. "Let me tell you about Earth," she said. "Our home world. You have probably heard it called a death world. Do you know what that means? A planet with extreme conditions, dangerous wildlife, high gravity. That is the simple answer. The true answer is more complicated." Hannah leaned forward. "Earth is not just dangerous. It is a place where everything is trying to kill you. The weather kills. The water kills. The land kills. The animals, the plants, the insects, even the microscopic organisms in our blood. Everything, always." Mira listened with growing unease. We evolved in that environment. Not just our bodies, but our minds. We learned to adapt to anything, to survive anything, to never give up, no matter how bad things seemed. Because on Earth, giving up meant death. Hannah stood and walked to the far wall, her back to the alien counselor. "When we came to the stars, we thought we would find friends. We thought the galaxy would welcome us. Instead, we found that every species looked at us as prey, lesser beings to be used and discarded." She turned back, and her eyes were hard. "So we did what humans have always done. We adapted. We pretended to be weak because that is what you expected. We smiled and bowed and let you laugh at us. And all the while, we were preparing, building, waiting. Waiting for what? For this? For the moment when pretending was no longer enough? For the moment when we would have to show the galaxy what humans really are?" Mira felt cold, despite the room's warmth. "And what are you?" Hannah smiled, but there was no warmth in it. "Survivors. We are survivors, and we do not lose. We cannot lose, because losing means extinction. And we have been fighting extinction since the first human crawled out of the mud and decided to live one more day." The meeting ended shortly after. Myra Vex returned to her ship with the ambassador's words echoing in her mind. She understood now, in a way she had not understood before. The galaxy had not conquered humanity. Humanity had simply been waiting for the right moment to conquer the galaxy. Hi, Speaker Torvin was running out of options. His empire was dying around him. Nothing he did seemed to stop the bleeding. He called an emergency session of the Galactic Covenant. He demanded that every species send ships to fight the humans. He promised rewards, threatened punishments, begged for help. Most species refused. They had seen what happened to the Villani. They had no desire to share that fate. "If we fall," Torvin warned, "humanity will come for you next. They will not stop with us. They will conquer everything." But a neutral observer stood and spoke. His species had dealt with humans for decades, trading goods and exchanging knowledge. "We have spoken with the human ambassadors," he said. "They have no interest in conquest. They want only what was denied them: equality, a seat at the table, a voice in galactic affairs." Lies Torvin spat. "They are monsters. They will destroy us all. They are not monsters. They are simply tired of being treated like animals. Perhaps, if we had treated them as equals from the beginning, none of this would have happened." Torvin had no response to that. Meanwhile, Fleet Master Han Kyun was bringing his reserve forces into the war. For 30 years, he had commanded the secret fleet. 800 warships hidden in asteroid fields and empty systems, waiting for the day they would be needed. Ships built with technologies that no one knew humans possessed. He was 61 years old, patient and methodical. The kind of commander who won wars by thinking 3 steps ahead of his enemies. "All ships report ready," his flag captain reported. Han Kyung nodded slowly. "Then we move. Target, Valani Prime." The assault on the Valani homeworld would be the largest battle in galactic history. The Dominion had gathered everything they had left. 9,000 ships forming a wall of steel and fire around their ancient capital. The humans brought 1,200 vessels. The Valani officers laughed when they saw the numbers. Finally, a battle they could win. Finally, a chance to crush the human menace once and for all. They stopped laughing when the human fleet began to move. Han Kyung's tactics were nothing like what Commander Shinyeonji had used at Threshold Gate, where she was. Aggressive and unpredictable, he was patient and precise. He did not seek glory. He sought victory. His ships moved in perfect coordination, exploiting every weakness in the Valani formation. They struck at command ships first, then supply vessels, then troop transports. They turned the enemy's strength into confusion, their numbers into chaos. The battle lasted 3 days. When it was over, the skies above Valani Prime were filled with human ships. High Speaker Torvan stood in his palace and watched his world die. Not literally die. The humans had not bombarded cities or killed civilians. But the empire he had ruled was gone. The fleet he had trusted was dust. The power he had held for centuries had evaporated like morning fog. A communication request appeared on his console. He accepted it with trembling hands. Admiral Park Tae-ho's face filled the screen. He looked tired but calm, like a man who had finished a long and difficult journey. "High Speaker Torvan," he said, "you have lost. Your fleet is destroyed. Your allies have abandoned you. Your empire exists at our mercy." Torvan could not speak. His throat was too tea. You could have had peace," Tae-ho continued. "We offered it. We begged for it. We would have been your friends, your partners, your allies. All you had to do was treat us as equals." The admiral leaned closer to the camera. "You chose this. Remember that. Whatever happens now, you chose this." The screen went dark. Torvan sank into his throne and wept. The war was over, but for humanity. A new era was just beginning. Valani Prime fell in 72 hours. Not destroyed, humans did not believe in genocide. Not burned or broken or made into an example of human cruelty, simply conquered completely and efficiently. With a precision that left the galaxy speechless, human soldiers walked through ancient palaces that had stood for 10,000 years. Human flags flew above government buildings that had ruled empires. Human voices spoke through communication systems that had once broadcast commands to 100 worlds. And yet, the conquest was strangely gentle. Civilians were not harmed. Property was not destroyed. Essential services continued without interruption. The human commanders seemed more interested in maintaining order than in celebrating victory. High Speaker Torvan was captured without violence. He had expected death, or at least torture. Instead, he was placed in comfortable quarters and told he would face trial for crimes against humanity's colonies. Not execution, trial. "We're not like you," his guard told him when he asked why. We have every reason to be, but we choose differently." Torvan did not understand. He spent many nights trying to understand. How could a species that fought with such ferocity show such restraint in victory? How could creatures who took such terrible risks spare the lives of those who had wronged them? The answer, when it finally came, was simpler than he expected. Humans were not fighting to destroy. They were fighting to survive. And survival meant building something worth surviving for. The Galactic. Covenant collapsed within weeks of Valani Prime's fall. Species that had been loyal members for millennia suddenly discovered urgent reasons to negotiate individual peace treaties with Earth. Ambassadors who had laughed at Kong, Hana now begged for audiences. Military commanders who had dismissed human capabilities now studied their tactics with desperate intensity. And in the Grand Assembly, the chamber where humanity had been humiliated so many times, a new session convened. Ambassador Kong Hana walked to the speaking platform. But she did not stop at the lower level where minor species were required to stand. She climbed the stairs to the High Speaker's throne. Now, waiting for someone to claim it, she sat down. No one objected. "Representatives of the galaxy," she said, her voice carrying through the silent chamber. "We are here to discuss the future. Not the future the Villani planned, where some species ruled and others served. A different future." She looked around the room, meeting the eyes of beings who had once treated her like an animal. Humanity did not want this war. We wanted respect, partnership, a chance to contribute to galactic civilization as equals. We offered our hand in friendship, and you spat on it. Murmurs rippled through the assembly. Shame on some faces. Fear on others. A few showed defiance, but only a few. Now you will learn what humans have always known. We are not conquerors by nature. We are builders. We are creators. We are explorers who crossed the void between stars because we wanted to know what was out there. She stood, and somehow she seemed taller than before. We are also survivors. And we do not forget. We do not forget the kindnesses shown to us, and we do not forget the cruelties. We remember everything. She let those words settle over the assembly. The old covenant is dead. Today, we build something new. A true alliance of equals. No more master species. No more minor species. Every world, every people, every voice matters. She held out her hand, palm open. You can join us, or you can stand apart. The choice is yours. But know this, the humanity you laughed at is gone. The humanity that remains has been forged in fire. We have nothing to prove to you anymore. Her voice softened, just slightly. We still believe in cooperation. We still believe that the galaxy can be more than a collection of empires fighting for scraps. Join us, and we will show you what we can build together. One by one, the representatives rose. One by one, they pledged their support to the new order. Not from fear, though fear was certainly present, but from something else. Hope, perhaps. Or simply the recognition that the old ways had failed. The new Galactic Council was founded that day. Its first leader was elected by unanimous vote, Shin Yunji. The commander who had taken Threshold, Gate with 40 ships. 10 years passed. The galaxy changed. In ways that no one had predicted, Admiral. Beeknari commanded a peacekeeping fleet crewed by humans and aliens alike. Former enemies now served together, learning from each other, becoming something greater than either species had been alone. She was known for her fairness, her brilliance, and her absolute refusal to tolerate injustice. Dr. Osunwu's shared project. Hammer's technology with scientists from 100 worlds. What had been weapons of war became tools of progress. Gravitic systems powered clean energy plants. Medical applications saved billions of lives. The secrets that humans had guarded for 40 years now belonged to everyone. Lieutenant Choi Do-yeon, the pilot who had crashed his fighter into a Villani flagship and survived, became a legend. Young beings from across the galaxy came to train with him, learning not just how to fly, but how to push beyond their limits. They called him the Immortal, and he accepted the title with embarrassment. Fleet Master Han Kyung retired to a quiet farm on one of humanity's restored colony worlds. He raised vegetables and wrote poetry and refused all requests for interviews. The war is over, he told anyone who asked. Let it stay over. Counselor Myra Vex became humanity's strongest ally among the alien species. She worked tirelessly to build understanding between worlds, to heal the wounds of war, to prove that different peoples could live together in peace. When asked why she devoted herself to this cause, she always gave the same answer: because I was wrong about them. And being wrong taught me more than being right ever could. And in a small office, overlooking the gardens of the new council headquarters. Two old friends shared tea. Admiral Park Taiho had gray hair now, truly gray, and lines on his face that had not been there before the war. But his eyes were still calm, still watchful, still seeing more than most people realized. Ambassador Kang, Hannah Secretary General Kang, poured the tea with steady hands. She had aged too, but there was a peace in her expression that had been absent for decades. Was it worth it? She asked. Taiho considered the question carefully. Through the window, he could see children playing in the garden below. Human children and alien children, chasing each other through flowers that bloomed in a dozen colors. Their laughter drifted up through the open window. "That is a heavy question," he said. "It is the only question that matters." Taiho sipped his tea. It was good tea grown on Earth, brought across the stars to this distant world. "We lost good people," he said finally. "Friends, family, young men and women who should have lived long lives and had children of their own. Their absence is a wound that will never fully heal." Hannah nodded. She knew those losses personally. She carried them with her every day. "But we also built something," Taiho continued. "Something that did not exist before. A galaxy where humanity has a place. Where our children can grow up without fear. Where the species that once despised us now work beside us as equals." He set down his cup. "Was it worth it? Ask me again in 100 years. Maybe by then I will know." Hannah smiled, and for a moment she looked like the young diplomat she had been, full of hope and determination. "I will hold you to that," she said. They finished their tea in comfortable silence, watching the sun set over a world that had once been a battlefield. Somewhere in the archives of the new Galactic Council, a single document remained preserved under protective glass. It was the original treaty that had started the war, the demand that humanity surrender its colonies, signed by High Speaker Torvin and approved by 847 species. Beneath it, someone had placed a handwritten note in Korean. The writing was elegant, careful, the work of someone who understood the weight of words. It read, "We came in peace. Remember that you chose otherwise." The note was not signed. It did not need to be. Everyone knew who had written it, and everyone remembered. That was the point. Not revenge. Not pride. Not the satisfaction of victory. Memory, because humans understood something that most species learned. Too late, the past is not gone. The past is a teacher, and the lessons it offers, of cruelty and kindness, of war and peace, of choices and consequences, those lessons shape the future. Humanity had learned its lessons well. Now, the galaxy was learning them too.